In this training video, we want to go ahead and talk about building and improving relationships. There are two important reasons why we should study this topic. The first is found in John 13:15, which says, "By this all men will know that you are my disciples if you have love for one another." This is talking about power outside of the church. And then in 1 Peter 4:8, it says, "Above all, keep fervent in your love for one another, because love covers a multitude of sins." This is referring to purity inside the church. Our text is 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 14. "We urge you, brethren, admonish the unruly, encourage the faint-hearted, help the weak, be patient with everyone." You will encounter 4 relationships in the church. The first one is to admonish the unruly. The word admonish is nutheo, or nuthetic, or nuthetes. It means that there is a problem that we have to call sin. It's a one-on-one confrontation, and the purpose is to restore the person to the image of God. The idea of ruly is only used by Paul, and it's only used here once. The word means out of order, out of step. It's a military term of keeping in cadence. Someone who is unruly is not in step with biblical mandates. What are the effects from the presence of someone unruly? The precision of the whole is affected. Fragmentation and disjointed efforts occur. Infighting and territorial battles transpire because unity is not the focus. Individualism or elite and sectarian groups take the focus. The forward progress of those following is disrupted. A second relationship is we need to encourage the faint-hearted. The word encourage comes from the Greek word paramutheomai. It's a compound word meaning to draw alongside and tell a truthful story. It's used only 5 times in the Bible. The idea of faint-hearted means small-mindedness. It's a compound word meaning little or small, and then the word mind. So it can be translated small-mindedness or little-mindedness. It's not feeble as in the result of aging. What are some causes for small-mindedness? People's negativity, focusing in on circumstances, worry about the unknowns and uncertainties. There's a third relationship in the church that you will encounter, and that is to help the weak. The idea help comes from to hold against or to hold firmly, to keep oneself directly opposite to anyone, to hold him firmly. The idea of weak means without strength, infirm or feeble. We find it used in Matthew 26:41. Jesus holds firmly to the disciples, warning them that they need to be alert to the spiritual attacks, warning them that they might be willing, but the flesh is weak. 1 Corinthians 8, verse 7 and verse 10. Paul uses the same word to describe those who eat meat offered to idols, thinking that it must be okay because mature Christians are doing so. However, their minds are weak and they are condemned. What makes saints weak? Selfish desires, false teachers, lack of discipline, and incomplete perseverance. There's a fourth relationship: be patient with everyone. The idea of patience means to delay, to bear with another's injuries, to be mild and slow, or slow to punish. Scriptural illustrations of this is found in James 5:7, the farmer waiting for the early and latter rains. In 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 9, it's used with reference to the judgment of unbelievers. In 1 Corinthians 13:4, it's a description of biblical love. In Galatians 5:22-23, it's a characteristic of the fruit of the Spirit. What makes us impatient? Lack of progress with those that we are working with, unruly people, faint-hearted, weak. feeling overburdened and taxed by their spiritual messy diapers, and then their sin mirroring or reflecting our own sinfulness. Now, how can we apply these principles? The first three relationships demand actions, and the fourth requires a biblical attitude. Notice that Paul is writing to the brethren, not to an elite group. Which relationships right now would God want you to improve in? What makes that relationship difficult for you? What do you fear might happen if you were to act like this in the biblical framework? What specific ways do you think God wants you to develop to improve your relationships among the saints? Will you make a list of those relationships needing improvement? Will you, by God's grace, take these tools now and begin doing what God is calling you to do? Don't worry about the response or lack thereof. Don't sit in judgment that your efforts will be in vain, that the person won't be responsive. That's not your job. Your job is to obey what the Spirit is telling you to do today. More information can be found on the World Wide Web about Mount Carmel Ministries at www.mountcarmelmin.org.